Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Stamping with Jeannie. I have to say, once again, Monday I was stumped. What am I going to talk about? Everybody knows everything. Well, today, this is for the beginning stamper, maybe the one that doesn't know everything. I'm going to talk about ink pads. And I think it seems like a very basic subject and maybe nothing that anybody is interested in or nothing that anybody or everything that everybody already knows, but there's a possibility that maybe you don't know everything. So I'm going to share a little bit about ink pads. And like I said, it really is geared to the beginner stamper here today because I'm going to assume that maybe you haven't seen our ink pads and you don't know how to open them, don't know how to use them. So that's what today's thing is. Before I go down, so that you can see what I'm going to do, and boy, do I have a full table here. So I have a lot to share. And in fact, I was saying, there's so much to share that I think I'm going to end up having a series here. I may be able to talk more about the regular ink pads next week. What I think I'm going to do before I do that, though, is talk about our other ink pads, because it's not just the color ink pads. There are other specialty ink pads, and I think I'm going to talk about them next week. But first, before I go down and talk about that, welcome. Thank you for joining me. And I have a couple of dates that I have to throw out to you so that you know about this. Today is October 9th. I almost said September 9th, but it's October 9th, which means it is the day before Paper Pumpkin ends. So I don't know if you guys got your Paper Pumpkin last month. I don't know if you're subscribers. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. This kit is a full kit in a box. When you're a first subscriber, I think a block comes with it. It's a pretty basic block. If you have your own blocks, you might want to use them more, especially because this one has a nice edge. It's nice and thick, but that's not what comes in the box the first time that you subscribe. But it is a block that's going to help you do everything you have to do. Now, this kit was actually a Halloween kit, and next Friday, October 19th, I'm going to have a Paper Pumpkin Palooza, a kit night. So I'm going to make a pumpkin soup and a pumpkin dessert, and we are going to have fun putting together our paper pumpkins. Because if you're like me, your kit might look like this. And that's closed. Not done. I have boxes and boxes of kits that are not done. So if we get together, we're going to share ideas. Maybe you have other ideas. I'm hoping by then that my kit is going to be here next week because, hi Angelique, welcome. I'm hoping that next week my paper pumpkin is going to be here so I can work on the next one because that's really what I want to talk about. Winter Wonders is coming next week, and this is this month's paper pumpkin, and you have to sign up by tomorrow at midnight. Hi Kathy, I haven't seen your box yet, I'll let you know. And then in November there's a second paper pumpkin, and they actually coordinate. So for best results, you want to sign up for both of them now, and your deadline, like I said, is to sign up tomorrow night. The benefit of being a Paper Pumpkin subscriber is that if you sign up, you can also purchase pass kits, which is actually what I'm going to do. This box makes 20. I've decided I'm going to make it for all of my neighbor kids, and I'm going to make 40 of them because I think I'm going to have 40. If I don't, I certainly have 40 coworkers that'll eat anything I put in there. But so I'm going to order a refill kit, and then I'm going to be able to do a whole nother set. So that's next week's plan. But like I said, you have to sign up by tomorrow. You can do that by either going to the website, purchasing a prepaid subscription, and then activating the code that you get in your email at Paper Pumpkin, or you can go right to my Paper Pumpkin, paperpumpkin.com. I think they changed it now, the name, and you can subscribe month by month. But just put me as your demonstrator, and I will send you a thank you card. But anyway, so that's Paper Pumpkin. That's the first deadline I wanted to talk to you about. Second deadline is I'm doing a Stamp Club of the Month. I started that. And you guys all know that I love Harvest Hellos. I talk about this all the time. I think this was my second order. Believe it or not, it wasn't my first. But boy, do I love this stamp set. So for right now, making apple pies, I'm thinking even Thanksgiving, everything. And it could also be pumpkins. So with your kit, I'm going to give you a tutorial and a card kit, and you're going to get some product with that. But you have to sign up by tomorrow for that as well, the 10th, so I can order supplies. So that is all I wanted to talk about right now. Now I'm going to get down to business. I am going to talk about ink pads. So let me flip you if I can. I think I can. Yep, here we go. Okay, here we go. Going down. Okay. There, you also see the host code for the month. Don't forget, you get a surprise from me if you order using that host code. Okay, so just in time for this yesterday, my new Purple Posy ink pad came in the mail. So Stampin' Up, because I went to Onstage, I was able to order the bundle originally. And I got all 5 ink pads. And I seriously didn't have too many problems with my first one. I did notice it was a little bubbly at some point. I think when it was really humid. But I really honestly didn't have a lot of the problems that a lot of people did. But regardless, Stampin' Up, with their quality testing, decided that it wasn't good enough. And they did a couple of different changes. And yesterday I got my replacement. I didn't even have to send for it. They just said, you ordered it, it's not good enough, take this one. So, let me put on my glasses so I can see what I'm doing. But on the back of the ink pad are labels. And this one is really hard to see because it's so light. But this is the only one I don't have done, so we're gonna have to do it. So, these labels, this is self-stick, it peels up, okay? So there's a couple of different languages in here. You can pick whatever language works for you. I have to tell you, I'm going to put this to the side because I don't think I need all those extra. Purple Posy in English obviously is going to work best for me. So I have that here, and I'm just going to attach it right to the front end of my ink pad. And I know it's my front because it has the little divot where I can put my thumb to open it. So if I can get this straight, because I'm really particular about how this goes, I may have to fix this later. But anyway, it sticks on. If you don't like where you put it, peel it up, you stick it again, it sticks on. Okay, so that's that one. I always take a second one because sometimes the pad is on the table. I can show you this one. This is my pretty peacock. The pad is on the table. I can still pick it up and see the ink. So even though it's not a language that I know, understand, or speak by any means, I still keep that second sticker because more than likely it's not always looking the same on the table, right? So that's my second sticker. Nope, I did that wrong again. Well, it's not going to matter because I'm still going to use it. The third sticker that I save actually goes inside the ink pad. So let me stick this off to the side so I can show you how to open this ink pad. You're going to open it, just put your one thumb there, hold the bottom. It's actually, maybe I haven't, see where I put my thumb? You can see I put my thumb there, hold it and flip it, and then you slide it. Sometimes it slides easy, sometimes it doesn't. I've heard tips that if this is really tight and doesn't slide, eventually it is going to loosen up, but if it doesn't, you can run like a wax crayon on the edges or a wax candle, just a little bit, and that makes it slide much easier. Mine slides fine, so I won't bother with that. But so you have an open space right here, and what you're going to do is, I meant to do the plain one, and instead I'm doing a different language, but you get the idea. I'm just putting that right in that little divot right there. So when I open this ink pad, when it's open on the table, I can see what color it is. And I'm going to show you a difference right here. This is Call Me Clover, and this is Pretty Peacock. And if you look at the two of them, I don't necessarily know which one is which. This is a nice quick check, especially when you're stamping a yellow flower and green leaves. You're not going to stick your already inked yellow green leaves into your yellow ink pad. So this is your check. That's your stop before you ink the wrong stamp. Sometimes I'm in such a hurry, I still do, but you really want to have that there just to remind you, oh my goodness, do not put the yellow in the green or the green in the yellow. Nothing is sadder than having to do that. If you do, there are ways around it. You could actually run it under water, and you could get some of the ink out, or you could take a paper towel and immediately try to wipe it. Those are ways to do it, but anyway, you don't want to get the ink in it. Hopefully you don't ever have to deal with that. That's what I'm trying to say. So the next thing I have to say is, okay, this is Poppy Parade. This is a red ink pad. If you notice the side, it's not as thick as our other ink pads used to be, but it's foam. It's very spongy. You stick something in there. If I really pressed in here, not only would I have a red stamp, I'd also have a red block, which means I'd have red fingers, I'd have red paper. I'd try not to get it on my paper, but then I'd have it on my hand, so I'd get it on the card I already stamped, and nothing is worse than getting to the end of a card, having it all created, all put together, and you've got a red thumb, and you stick your thumb in there, and you can't really get rid of that. You can try to hide it, you can try to cover it up. Best thing to do is be nice and neat to start with. So you don't have to press hard when you're using these ink pads. I will say there could be two reasons why this stamp right here could be red. And I'm going to tell you both of them. So first of all, I could have stamped this in the red ink pad. I'm not going to right now, but see how my center is red too? If I press too hard, I'm going to get ink on the block. I'm going to get ink in all my crevices. I'm going to get ink in my center. And then it might be that I want to keep that center plain. And I have to tell you, I don't know, I must be too good of a stamper, because I couldn't even get ink into the center of my card trying to do it. But I know it happens, so you've got to be careful. So it could have been that I inked it too much, pressed it too hard, rocked it a little bit, got it all over my stamp, all over my block. The other possibility is if you've used a lot of red or purple ink already, it could be in your cleaner, your Stampin' Scrub. You scrub that, if there's already a lot of red ink in there, it's going to be hard to not get this red. Now, I'm going to tell you one other little tip in case you don't want a completely red. Sometimes it's just unavoidable, especially if you're using red over and over again. But the one thing you could do is use your chamois. Then it doesn't pick up the ink again. So chances are, unless it's really saturated, that won't make your stamp red if there's already red ink on it. The other possibility thing that you could do is stamp with a Versamark first, and that's like a protective layer, and then stamp with your red. So those are just a couple of tips, but what you don't want to do is really press in there and rock your stamp. Now I'm going to show you a stamp. This was one of the cards one of the stamps from last night with Elfie. Now I have to tell you, I still didn't get it as clean as I would have liked, but I do have to tell you, with this Elfie stamp, love this stamp set. Mostly because I love coloring. The only thing that would make it better would be dyes. But anyway, this one I really squished into an ink pad so I could make a point. When you squish it too much into an ink pad, that's where you get that ring around it. They call that a halo. You don't want a halo. Halos belong on angels. They don't belong on your stamped images. So what you're going to do, instead of squishing it into the pad, and I think this is going to be a little bit easier to understand with your photopolymer because I'm going to tell you another tip. But with the clear ones, I don't have to do anything besides just tap it. If I tap it, I'm telling you, that's enough ink. These are so well inked. And if they're not inked enough, you've got re-inker. But you're not going to get any more ink by squishing it into the pad. So that's not going to improve your stamping any. So here, I want to save that for a second. I'm just going to stamp this, and then you just go straight down. You're going to hold it a second, and look at how beautiful that is. Wouldn't you rather send something like this than like that? Save this for your practice or whatever. If you want to practice, you know what I do with this, I have to say, I'm going to get a little aside here for 1 second, but if I have something like that where I've already stamped, you know what I use this for? I use this for my color palette so that when I'm using my blends, Rather than trying out my blends, if I'm trying to figure out a color combination that works with my blends, do I want the dark Call Me Clover? Do I want the light? Do I want Poppy Parade, or do I want Real Red? I would try it on something like this first. No, this one. The one that is I'm not going to use. I can test my colors and say, oh, Real Red, that might be a little dark. Let me try a little bit of Poppy Parade there. And then when you get to this, you've got a card ready to go. So you're not going to press too hard. You've got to be really careful. So I'm going to show you something else. And I think I was going to show it to you with the Poppy Parade for a second. No, I am going to show it to you with the green. Okay, so look at this. I have a new stamp here. This is the Cup of Christmas stamp set. I haven't used this one yet. I used it just enough, I have to say, just to kind of clean it up. When you have your stamps like this, the first time you ink, they almost are, there's like a finish on it. It's almost a little bubbly. So you're not going to, you have to kind of roughen it up a little bit for the first time so the ink sticks. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to bring you down so you see this even more, right here, I'm going to just put this on my ink pad. And I don't know if you can see this or not. I'm hoping you can, but see, all I'm doing is lighting up with the green that all the stamp, the part of the stamp. And I could see that there were little gaps, so I had to do it a little bit better. So I kind of just pressed a tiny bit, but I am not pushing. You don't need a lot of pressure. These ink pads are so well inked when they come to you, and because of the foam, they work really well as well. So then all I'm going to do is go like this, and I hold it for like 3 seconds. I have a friend that says, all you say is, Michelle is great, Michelle is great, Michelle is great. Well, since you're watching Stamping with Jeannie, I think you're going to agree that Jeannie is great. Not really, I'm only kidding. But anyway, there you've got your beautiful stamped image. And I must have something on my stamp someplace, and I'll figure that out for the little white parts. And I'm actually going to tell you a little trick if you've got something like that, where it didn't, something solid like that. Some people use markers to kind of fill in the white on there. You can see I've got a couple of little white flecks. If I was happy with that, except for those tiny little white flecks, don't use your marker. Instead, you take a blender pen and take it to the ink pad. The markers coordinate. They don't match fabulously perfectly. They match really, really well, but not perfectly. So if you use the ink pad and the blender pen, you can actually, you could even try just doing the blender pen with the ink that's already there. But if you can't do that, just take a dab with your blender pen and the ink pad, and you can just kind of fill in those holes, and you won't even know that there's little white flecks. So that's what I wanted to tell you about that. So you're going to light it up. You're not going to press it in. It's really easy to see through the clear. Not as easy with, well, the clear, which are photopolymer, I should say. Not as easy with the clear stamps. I didn't clean it yet, I'm sorry. But, I mean, it's really hard to see exactly how hard to press or whatever, but you'll just get a feel. You don't press, just tap. And tapping is going to be just fine. Look at it. Chances are it's inked. If I saw an area that wasn't inked, I could go back and tap it again, but I don't have to press. It's not going to work that way. And then you're going to just let it sit on your paper for a second. And there you go. So these are ways to do that. Now I've got to tell you 2 other tips with this. You've got your ink pad. You see how easy it is to open? I stick my thumb here. I hold the bottom. I flip it. And yes, I am covered with green, I have to say, probably because of the stamp that was too well inked. But if not, you're not going to know you had fun if you don't have ink on your fingers. Sorry about that. Okay, so now I want to re-ink my pad. Now, I know my Poppy Parade has plenty of ink, but I do want to show you how to do it. So I have my Poppy Parade re-inker here, my refill. You're going to open your pad, and you are going to add some drops. Now, I could just add the drops like this. Just squeeze and add the drops. It's a little bit random. What I like to do a little bit more, as long as I'm not actually scratching the surface of the foam pad, is I actually like to run it back and forth because I think the line works better than the drops. But it still looks a little splotchy. So I've got 2 tips for you for that. The thing that I really use, mostly because it doesn't stain it, is I don't know how many of you have heard of Pampered Chef, but they have their stoneware and you're not supposed to use brushes or sponges or anything. You clean it with these little scrapers. And I adore Pampered Chef, I have to say. I've got lots of these scrapers, or at least I did. I think I've lost just about all of them, but this one I've been able to hang on to. Anyway, you're just going to take your scraper and you just kind of spread it out. Now, what I'm doing here actually has 2 advantages. Let me get rid of all this red ink so I don't get it all over my finger in a minute, but I'll rinse that off later. If you don't have a plastic scraper like that, you can use a bone folder. As you can see, I've used mine several times and I'm going to tell you why I'm using it. But anyway, this bone folder does a really good job of spreading it out too and evening it out. You can use the back of a spoon if you wanted to. People recommend plastic spoons. Maybe not your spoon that you eat off of, but it's water soluble, it does rinse off. But anyway, you know what, I forgot to tell you about these ink pads, and maybe many of you know, but see how this is when it's closed? It flips upside down. That's how you store them. If you have regular ink pads that are, you just put the lid back on, you're going to have to store them upside down because you want the ink to flow to the top, not settle to the bottom. So that's one of the advantages of these pads. So anyway, what I wanted to show you was okay, I'm going to stamp this. Unfortunately, I've already spread it, so you can't really see what I'm going to do, but I'm going to spread it. I'm going to put it again kind of splotchy so that and then I'll spread it and show you what I'm going to try to teach you here. When you've got your solid stamps, especially if there's too much ink, first of all, you can see that's all bubbly, way too much ink. So if I'm going to stamp, let's see, I'm going to stamp here and it's going to be way too much. I'm hoping so that I can teach you something here. Oh my goodness, it turned out perfectly. That was not the intention. What I really intended to show you was too much ink was going to seep into those circles. Ruth, I'm going to have to save this cup for you because it's absolutely perfect, and I did not even mean to do that. Anyway, you've got all your little, if it's too much ink, it would actually almost look like little starbursts because the ink would seep under and into those holes. So I didn't teach you anything with that, but I will teach you something. Here, wait 1 second. This is what I want to show you. Okay, so I've got my scrap here. Instead of the red, I'm going to show you with, I'm going to show you with the peacock, I think. I think the peacock is a pretty wet pad as well. So if I was having the problem with those little starbursts into the center where obviously the ink would almost run, there was so much ink because I hadn't spread it, there is something you can do. And Celine taught me this recently, and it has been a mind-blowing thing to learn, I'm telling you. So you see this ink, this stamp, this is from the Perfectly Plaid stamp set. I believe that's the name of it. Yes, Perfectly Plaid. So it's the Christmas trees and it has the matching punch. I don't know, here, let me show you the actual thing so you can see. There is, I don't know if you can see the gradations of the branches. This is so realistic looking. Now, if I did this in an ink pad, which is hopefully so wet, that's what I'm trying to show you, you may not see, yep, see, it's all solid. You're not going to see into those branches or whatever. So I want you to see the different gradations of the shading of the tree because it's that realistic looking. These stamps are that good. Oh yes, I do want to keep it open so I can show you. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to push the ink out of the center. Now the ink is still in the pad, except for what I have covering my bone folder, which is going to get all over my hands in a second. But okay, so I'm going to stamp in the center there, and I can see it lit up the stamp. And hopefully, if all goes well, you're going to see a little bit, oh, even better. So you can kind of see it's not perfect, but you can see that there is actual branches on this tree. So that's what I wanted you to see. So if you have too much ink on your pad, take your bone folder or your spreader, your plastic spoon, and move that ink out of the center. And it's going to be a totally different experience. So I have to show you a card. I'm going to move this out of the way for a second. What a mess I've got going already, but I haven't gotten too much on my hands yet, so that's amazing. Okay, so I wanted to show you this card. I did this with the green. So this is the same thing. You can see, obviously, it wouldn't have the same effect if it was that full of a tree. It just looks like a blob. It's a tree silhouette. I want to see a tree. So I stamped this in Call Me Clover. And then I stamped the brown stump and I punched it out with the tree punch that's available as part of this bundle. But the really neat thing, I'll show you this card. I made this for a swap. This is actually a pocket card. So I've scored it, just so that you know, I scored it in half at 5.5 inches. And I have to figure out how big this, oh, 1.5. Okay, so then I scored it again on one side at 1.5 inches and folded that down. And then I just rounded the edges. And look at that, and then it's kind of fun. I could have glued this down. I don't think I did. I just tied it. You can see that. I just tied that, stuck that. And then I have my little pocket insert and I can write my message in there. So just a fun card, but I wanted to show you this tree. So that was one of the swaps I made. So let me set that aside. I'll take a picture of that and put it on my website so you can see it on my Facebook page when I'm done. These are the cups. And if you do a really good job stamping them, they look nice and crisp and clean. And this was part of my Elfie class last night. All these mischievous little elves that I was talking about, well, we found them in the cabinet in the coffee cups. So, in the cocoa cups. So, if you're looking for your elves, they're probably in the cocoa cups. And I just added a little bit. I love coloring with blends. It colors so well. Like I said, I think I said this before, my only regret with this stamp set is that it doesn't have matching dies. So I did a lot of fussing cutting. But anyway, and see, rather than using the ivory blend, I'm getting a little caught away here, but I used the light petal pink blend for my face, and then I add just a little bit to the cheeks with the light flirty flamingo. So that's what that is. And then like my sign, I colored it with the bronze. The other essential thing that I use all the time is my color lifter to lighten things up. So gives it some shading, or it makes it so you can read your sign. So that's one of the fourth card that we made in our card class last night. But so now I've talked a little bit about the ink pads. I just want to make a quick card with you. And this is such a simple card. All I'm doing, I want to just use the regular ink pads. And I love this card. This card is, I hope Celine isn't watching, because it's actually her thank you card for coming to retreat, because she already got my swap card that I was sending as thank you cards to everybody else. But anyway, okay, so my stamp set that I am using is Beautiful Friendship. Now this one, the artwork is already so detailed, so there's no reason for me to get into any, I don't have to know how to draw to use stamps, because Stampin' Up! Has done the work for me. They've already done the shading there. They've got beautiful images, they've got beautiful sentiments, so Anybody that says they can't do this, I'm going to prove you wrong right now because this is such a simple card. So my card, I actually am using 4 colors. I don't have to, but I am going to. So I'm not going to show you the finished card yet because I want to show you how easy it is to stamp this. So I've got my stamps already on the block, and I'm using the photopolymer ones. So what I'm going to start with is so that I know where I am. Let me stand up for a second because I can't stamp sitting down. I don't know about you, but I am a stander. So I got Blueberry Bushel. And I think you already saw all of these. I'm going to talk about this another time, but all of these have ink in the end. Most of the time it's because I put it there. And when I get to another part of the series about color and ink and our products, I'll get into that. But anyway, so all I'm going to do is take my Blueberry Bushel ink. I'm just tapping it. You know, I could see, actually, I think that looks okay. There's actually a part that doesn't look as inked, so I'm going to see. But if I had my Stamparatus, I'd put it on the Stamparatus, and then if it wasn't perfect, I could always, oh, it looks beautiful. Okay, if it wasn't perfect, I could always re-ink. But, okay, that's my Blueberry Bushel. I think that's all I need that one for. It is. My next color that I'm going to use is actually Mango Melody. And my reason for using this is because it looks like fall, and I have to tell you, I don't know what happened to my pad. It got a little beat up, which is amazing because I never use it. So anyway, oh, I'm getting ink all over me. But anyway, I've got my beautiful rose image right here, and I'm going to stamp just off to the side right there. So it didn't take much, and already, like I said, Stampin' Up! Did the work. You can see that there's a lot darker areas and there's lighter areas, and there's nothing I have to worry about. So Stampin' Up! Did the work, and I'm stamping and cleaning my image, and I'm going to close the stamp set before I get green in my yellow like I was talking about. Okay, next I am going to stamp some leaves. So I've got a couple of leaves here, and I don't think I need many. I'm going to put one there. I'll put one down there. And yeah, that may be it. I may put one more there. But okay, I'm going to leave that like that because I have one more stamp that I want to do. I hear my dogs barking, but I think my daughter did me a favor and shut them in the bedroom. So you guys don't necessarily hear my dogs barking. That's fabulous. Okay, so the last one is the hydrangea one, and hydrangeas are so plentiful here in August in New England. I just love it. But okay, let me stamp like this. And once again, this one, it has, you can almost see it when you look through here. If you look down, you can see that it's darker there. Well, that's already where it's more solid from Stampin' Up's point of view when they actually did this. So, isn't that pretty? So, I actually have to tell you, it's beautiful, but I went a step further. And that makes it not a beginner card anymore. I could have made this as a beginner one-layer card, but I just couldn't figure out those leaves. I have to say, the leaves are my problem. But so what I did instead was I made this card, and it's the same thing, but I stamped this twice, and then I popped it up so I could tuck some leaves behind it. So there's my card. I added just a few gems. So I put it on, so this is Seaside Spray. I put it on a Seaside Spray matte, Blueberry Bushel base, and this card is ready to go. So anyway, I think that's really all I wanted to share this time. I actually have so much on my table, but like I said, you guys are going to have to wait. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for joining. I hope you learned something here. Boy, did I share a lot. But anyway, if you didn't, share it with a new stamper because they may not know all of this. But next week, before I talk about different techniques that we can do with some of these inks, I am actually going to talk about our other ink pads because I think they're kind of essential. We have a bunch of other ink pads that you can use, so we're going to talk about them next week. So, and like I said, I think this is a series. So anyway, thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to Paper Pumpkin by tomorrow night. Don't forget to sign up for my Stamp Club of the Month by tomorrow. And check out my Facebook page because you would not believe the number of activities I have listed there. I've got events all month long now. So, oh, and the other thing I did wrong was I stamped. Speaking of stamping, I went and scheduled a one-day retreat for January and I misunderstood and I posted the wrong date. It's going to be January 18th, which is a holiday weekend for some, Martin Luther King weekend. If your kids are off, Dad can take care of them. Come to my retreat. It's here in Linfield and it's a great space. A fabulous space, not far from my house. No dogs, no kids, no husbands, lots of stamping, lots of fun. Hope you can join me. Anyway, that's enough advertising. Love you guys. I will see you next Wednesday when we talk more about ink pads. Have a great day. Bye.